Hello and welcome to ShameOver, where you can lose the hangover, not the booze. I'm your host, Erica Mallery, and this is a podcast for those interested in moderation and drinking less, and who want to find peace and balance in their consumption. I am on this journey with you, and I am proof that you can drink less without going cold turkey or all out sober. If this sounds good to you, let's get started. All right, this is part 2 of my conversation with Elani, and wow, this one gets deep in the best of ways. We talk about freeze states, functional dissociation, and why self-sabotage, which comes up a lot, is usually actually a symptom and not the actual problem. You'll also discover what healing can look like when you finally feel safe enough to stop overwriting yourself. And if you missed part 1, please go back and listen first because it sets up this conversation in such a big way. So let's get started. So you've talked a lot about the intuitiveness. So
Yeah.
how does that show up for you, and how do you bring that into your practice?
Again, so it's something that has always been there.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really just starting to realize like everybody's kind of got their level of receptivity to these more like subtle aspects of being in relationships. So I love to geek out on quantum physics, but everything is energy, right? Like everything has an energetic vibration, animate and inanimate objects. Everything has energy. And so, when we talk about intuitive, right? Like it's like, what are you tuning into?
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, I feel things physically. So sometimes it's goosebumps, right? Like we all do. Sometimes, people get joyful around us. Like we feel that's the pack animal part of us. That's the co-regulation. We all have mirror neurons. So we're all constantly bouncing off of the nervous systems that we're in relationship with. That's why it really matters for you to be clear about what sorts of environments you want to be in.
Yes.
Because our environment helps define how healthy we feel, right? So for me, I feel, again, I get physical. I can feel like my stomach drop, right? And so for me with clients, often that will help them start to tune back into their bodies, right? So when people go into a trauma reaction, and we all do, we all go in and out of trauma responses. That's a part of our biology and physiology that is in play for us to survive. So when we go into a trauma reaction, we have fight, flight, fawn, and then freeze. So freeze is dissociation.
Mm-hmm.
So people that shut down, people that kind of like daydream, people that are super clumsy are often highly disassociated. And many people, especially in this culture, walk around in a functional freeze. We call it functional, right? Because they're still showing up, they're getting their work done, they're eating, whatever. But they can be so tuned out from their physical experience. So part of what can be helpful in session when I'm feeling it in my body is that I'm then using my nervous system, because human beings are much more affected by the bodies than what's happening in the communication, right? So I'm cueing them back to their body. Like, ooh, I just felt that in my gut. Like that felt, I feel really scared, or I feel fucking mad. Am I allowed to cuss? We're going to have to put an explicit on this.
All good. I typically have them on. It's me, you know me.
So, and that helps them, right? Because we're such an intellectualized culture. People will analyze it. They will tell you why. They will tell you the background, the thing that happened, and but they often will stay disassociated from the emotional reality because they haven't had a safe place to process their emotions. It goes back to the behaviorism. It goes back to the way that we were disciplined as children. So when you tune them into it, it's like, I want to pull you into it because energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it can be transmuted. So when I pull you into the emotion that you are overriding or you're disassociating with your thoughts, and we just stay there, it actually moves quite rapidly. There might be an entire backlog. There might be decades of backlog. And it's like, as soon as we go through that moment, we're going to have the next one come up. But that's the work. That's the work.
Wow. So, because I have one person that is just glaringly obvious to me in this moment. So if there's someone who you've known like most of your life, maybe your whole life, I don't know, who is kind of in this disassociated state, is that
Yeah,
something that they could still, like, they could get out of it? So it's not, like
totally.
after 40 something years of being, it's their personality essentially.
Totally. Yeah. So it's interesting because when you go to complete a trauma response, so we all have the ability to complete trauma responses. It is built into our physiology. Human beings have just interrupted it or stopped it so much because again, behaviorism, right? Like shaming, punishing, banishing.
Mhm.
So we learn to shut it down. Don't throw a fit. You're going to get in more trouble. Don't show them your heart. They're going to
Mhm.
shame you for it. They're going to embarrass you. So we stop ourselves. So when we go to complete a stress cycle, and I've got a whole podcast episode on trauma and energy and how to complete stress cycles and what is happening in the mechanics of it. But oftentimes we follow the body. So all of this is instinct. We can't do it with our brain.
Yep.
So you have to follow the body. And so sometimes for people that are highly disassociated, that means just staying in the disassociation because the freeze response
Mm.
is the protective mechanism. So whatever happened when the initial trauma happened or, in complex PTSD, which I think probably most millennials are walking around somewhere on the spectrum of complex PTSD because of that disciplinary pattern. Part of the mechanism of healing is accepting what the body's doing. So it's just staying with it,
Not
right?
trying to
And
fight it or judge it. Yeah.
that's where the co-regulation of the therapist is really important
Okay.
because I'm not rushing you through it. Your body's going
Mm.
to be the one that completes it. And what your body needs in order to complete it is safety. And so if I'm like, oh, this is getting uncomfortable, they're not feeling anything. Like if they're not feeling anything, I'm like, great. That is the protective mechanism. So we just stay with it.
Okay. Wow, that is
Do
fascinating.
nothing,
Yeah, which I'm sure can be the hardest thing because I know that just
especially in this culture.
oh,
We want to
yeah.
do. We want progress. We want results. We operate on a linear timeline. Like, am I going forward? Am I going backward? And it's like
Mhm.
we are cyclical beings. We are organic. We exist. Our bodies are nature. Nature works in cycles, day to night, season to season, especially women. Our hormones operate by the cycle of the moon.
That's so fascinating. So, this kind of something that's come up a lot, and I feel like this is a perfect time to kind of go into it a little bit, but self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage, I feel like comes up so much. I mean, especially with people
Yeah.
that I work with, it's, you
Yeah.
feel like you're doing really good and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, which when we really dig in, very little is out of nowhere, but
Yes.
a lot of it really seems to come down to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have my thoughts and reasons as to where
Yeah.
a lot of that comes in, but is that something that you see a lot? And what kind of do you recommend channeling when you're seeing that coming on for
Yeah.
you?
So, I mean, I think part of it relates to what we just talked about with like the linear timeline, right?
Sure.
So it's not like there's a forward and a backward. So, and I think one of the things that can really help is that our behavior is not who we are. So, when people bring like the thing that they're most ashamed of,
Mm,
like the darkest thing that they thought they were never going to say out loud. And when I hear it just as like, okay, that was a behavior. That was
mhm,
something that happened. Like, that's not who you are. And then they're like, oh. So I
mm,
think, with self sabotage, usually people are like, oh my God, I'm failing. I'm the worst and whatever. And it's just like, okay, so that happened. Great. And let's come back to you. So what was at play, right? So just like drinking, right? Like, and the self sabotage can be in the drinking behavior,
yes,
right?
absolutely, all the time.
But it's like, it's just a symptom. It's just the expression of the underlying thing. And a Jungian perspective would say that's the thing that wants to get integrated. That's
Mm,
the part of yourself that wants to be invited in. That's the part of yourself that you haven't listened to yet, that you've been ignoring. And then you enact something that brings that to the forefront, right? Like you enact some crisis, you could
mhm.
create something crazy. For years, I was the cheater. I cheated on like almost every boyfriend I had. Even after I was the like life coach, I would get like wasted and cheat. And I was like, what
I
the
do not see
fuck?
this out of you. Wow.
Oh, so funny. This was my lifetime before you, Erica. But I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why do I keep doing this? But right, like it would happen when I'd be drinking and what do they call it?
Inhibitions.
Yes, your inhibitions are down.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what I realized years later when I really got into my own intensive therapy was that it was this enactment, of my own rage, of having to be the one that was always responsible, that always had it together, that was always caretaking other people. Part of it was my deep need for affection and attachment. And it was like I'd cast some fantasy in my mind, which the booze would help with.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And then it'd be like, maybe this is the person, right? The Disney fairy tales also would play into some fantasy because it's much easier to believe a fantasy about someone you just met than about the person that you're dating and in the day-to-day shit with. And part of it was this enactment of external chaos that kept me managing things externally so that I didn't have to confront my deeper shit. And so I just spin a drama for myself over and over again. And I'd have to beg for forgiveness from my person and just like, I don't know why I did it. And like, blah, 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 blah. And then I do it again.
So how did you, obviously through this work, you came to that realization, but then what? How did you get over that? Because like I said, this is not the Elani I know. So like, obviously a lot happened between A and B.
So a huge part of it was my kind of the beginning of like my healing crisis of just like, okay, I'm doing this thing over and over. Like, I need to go somewhere else. And I went somewhere else that I didn't even know I needed to go because I was so used to being the one that everybody else turned to for help. So it was like, I needed to start to get supported in a way I never had. And so I started in pretty intensive therapy when I was coming out of a relationship that had a lot of emotional abuse dynamics. I was very much the co-regulator, the caretaker. He was reactive. He was manipulative. I was wrapped up in it. And I stayed for a year, even though the dynamics were obvious, like literally from date one. And so that was at 31. I started being like, what is going on with me? Like, what is going on? And so I was blessed enough to find a really great psychotherapist who also is about the same age as my father, actually looks quite similar to my father. And I started doing a lot of my healing work. And I got to be, in many ways, parented in that dynamic. And I started to have this father archetype of guidance, of safety, unconditional love that I didn't have in my own experience of being parented. And so I don't have to, create this crazy like enactment, this crazy melodrama in my life if I'm getting what I need. Right. And that's where, in many ways in the West, a therapy has kind of become the modern paradigm of the medicine person, right? The person in the community that you go to get some of those healing needs met. And then that trickles back out into our lives, right? So the reparenting is great. And to be clear, you don't need somebody the same age as your parents, but you do need somebody who has done their own work.
Yes.
Because you do need to remember that our nervous systems are always bouncing off of each other. So if somebody hasn't been to their own darkest corners, they're not going to hold you in yours. It does not matter how many books they have read. And, that's part of like what is so difficult about therapists is it's an academic pursuit in many ways. And so you can know a lot of really great orientations, but it's the energetic exchange that is really the heart of the healing.
Oh, wow. Never heard it that way. That is super powerful. And as you know, I'm just a coach in the sense that I don't have all the letters behind my name. And I know in the beginning for me, it kind of like was something that was like, well, why are people gonna trust me or whatever if I don't have these letters? But to your point, like it's about talking to someone that gets it, that knows what you're feeling, what you're going through, and actually understands it on that deep level. Because I mean, even unfortunately, at so many rehabs, which I understand why, but most of the people that work in rehab have never had a problem with drugs or alcohol or, sex or whatever the rehab's for. They're there
Oh,
because they have the knowledge,
interesting.
which is super powerful, but
Yeah.
they don't actually know what it's like to have that addictive side, to have that where
Yeah.
you're just thinking about it nonstop. So
Yeah.
it is a very different dynamic when you do have someone who gets it.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to be respectful of your time because I know you do have something coming up, and I think we'll probably schedule another chat, you and me anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess one key takeaway, if someone was listening and was just like, okay, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like, yes, everything that you said, but like, I don't even know how to get in my body. I can't sit with that discomfort.
Yeah.
Or, since you're so intuitive, what is one thing that's coming up for you that you would like to like share or end on for this conversation?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that there are so many paths to healing and so many things work for different people at different times. And so, whatever it is that you're choosing to do, yes, I want it to challenge you and I want it to get you out of your comfort zone, but it also needs to speak to you. Sometimes people like choose the thing because that's what someone else did,
Yep.
but they're not inspired by it. They don't feel comfortable in it. And like, if you don't feel comfortable, like it won't work because, again, circling back to our nervous systems, we have to be able to give ourselves over to have a baseline level of safety. That
Yes.
doesn't mean that the person like lets you off the hook or babies you,
Yeah.
but that you are able to let your guard down enough that you can go somewhere new. So make sure it speaks to you in a deep
Mm,
way and challenges you. Also, one thing, like if you want to do somatic work, I think it's a necessary add-on to any sort of thing you're doing. And the thing that I've been doing recently is this woman, Liz Tenuto, she's got an online program. It's called The Workout Witch. Her base program is called Trauma Release, I believe. So
okay.
just get that. It's like $60. It's a month-long program. I do somatic work with clients, but in doing that program, there's so much more that you can do in a month to have that
Mm,
level of consistency and help calm the nervous system down that it will make everything else more effective.
the workout witch. You had told me
Yeah.
about that on Friday, and I meant to ask you. So I'm so glad you
You're
brought that up
welcome, Liz
again.
Tenuto, for the plug. I've sent
Okay.
lots of people to her.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so, so, so much. How can people find you or connect with you after this? Obviously, I'll have everything in the show notes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Definitely plug in my my podcast because there are episodes on there that will just give you really easy like tidbits of
yeah.
psychoeducation and applicable exercises and stuff like that. My website is elaninicole.com. My practice is currently full, so I'm not taking new clients right now, but I do a lot of workshops and group work as well. So you can always like join me for one-off workshops or get on my wait list for a future client spot.
Awesome. I'm so honored to have you here today. Thank you so much. Again, I'll be
Yeah.
sure to keep all that in the show notes, but we will
Okay.
definitely be talking more. I have a feeling. So,
Okay.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
This was such a powerful conversation. And I hope what you're taking away is this: you're not broken. You are absolutely not failing. And your patterns are not your identity. Whether alcohol, shopping, scrolling, overthinking, or any other coping pattern has become your go to, there is always something underneath it asking to be seen. So be sure to check out Alani's work in the show notes. And if this episode hit home for you, please send it to a friend. I'd love to hear what stood out to you most. As always, like and subscribe. It's the only way that I can continue doing this passion work and help other people and continue growing. And if you do want more help, if you are just getting started in this area, if you just feel stuck, if you feel like you just need a refresh, check out my new reset. It is 4 weeks, me literally in your pocket every single day, helping you to really uncover what's underneath. So what's better than that? Not much. Go get it now. Cheers. We'll see you next time.
ShameOver is the mindful drinking program designed for women who desire to drink less without losing the booze completely. If you want to transform your relationship with alcohol and live a healthier, confident, and balanced life, go to shameover.me and get started today. You deserve it, you're worth it, your future self thanks you. Cheers!